Welcome everybody to another episode of the Gold Silver Bitcoin Show, brought to you by the GoldSilverBitcoin.com store. We are more than honored to be sitting down today with Adam, the man, Kokesh. Adam, I don't think you need an introduction. From dancing in DC to countless other, achievements, such as writing the book Freedom, I believe it was called, and hosting Adam versus the Man on RT. That's just off the top of my head. And not much sticks in it these days. So that's probably a longer list than what I've said so far. Thank you for joining us.
Well, I appreciate that, Justin. And I got to say, I want to start with a couple shout outs. First, I know your last guest was Jeffrey Tucker, and I hope we're going to get into Oath Breakers today, but a part of his work and the perspective and wisdom that he has shared and represented over his years as an activist and an intellectual has definitely influenced me. And the book that I'm reading right now that is got me really turned on is America's Counter-Revolution, the Constitution Revisited by Sheldon Richman. And what this does is really tells the true history of Jeffrey Tucker wrote the introduction to this, by the way. That's a connection to Jeffrey Tucker. But shout out to both of those gentlemen for this epic book. That I have a great big boner for this idea right now. It's like a brain boner for a book. But no, it's even more than this. The idea that re-examining the Constitution and constitutional fetishism by conservatives and libertarians is really important to understanding how we got in the fucking mess that we're in right now. Because you can't say, like, you can't even say you're a constitutionalist and say, therefore, I'm for this Constitution, because you're for the Constitution. Well, before this Constitution, there was another one that was dubiously displaced coercively for the current Constitution, but the Articles of Confederation was a consensual document. And what this has inspired me to do recently, in light of everything that's happening with my alter ego, Elmer Stewart Rhodes and Oathkeepers, and this is, if you're not mainstream media, you're not allowed to talk about this stuff on YouTube, right? So I won't get into it any more than that. But I started a group called the Oath Breakers, which I think is really important for a lot of us, especially coming from the military, saying, no, it's not even something I'm going to acknowledge as ethically, possibly legitimate, a government based on the Constitution, based on the history of being coercively implemented, based on it being a document that does not respect individual self-ownership, that does not respect basic principles of ethics, that empowers a standing army, taxes, slavery. I could go on and on, but the idea that people who believe in freedom in a legitimate, principled way have been fooled into constitutional fetishism is a great tragedy of American politics that I'm looking to correct right now with at least my shit-stirring Facebook project called the Oath Breakers, oathbreakers.club. And that just takes you to the Facebook page. But obviously making that point that, for a lot of us, like I swore an oath to the Constitution that led me to be a war criminal by enlisting in the Marines. And I think that awareness is really critical to moving humanity forward. But second, I want to give a shout out to your audience, because I know in what you do in independent media, because I've been doing it in one way or another for over a decade. You really depend on your audience. And see, here's the challenge with this interview, man. Why am I dressed like this? I'm in my cabin on my 10-acre homestead, my sovereign gardenia, the Garden of Freedom, gardenia for short. I'm sitting here in front of my wood burning stove with my cabin, with my cider. And by the way, I just turned 40. Pirate looks at 40. If you don't know the song, look at the lyrics. It really speaks to me. But my wonderful girlfriend, Joey, and my producers club, these are the people who support my show, got me this awesome pirate skull pipe. So like I'm here, I could be a cool example, but this is the Gold Silver Bitcoin show. And here's the challenge: is like you want to make me relevant. I mean, I can tell you how to drive without a license or a license plate on your vehicle, because I do that. I can tell you how I beat mushroom charges in Colorado, in December, and how I got to stare down the state. And I can wax philosophical, and I can get like really drunk and stoned like by the time we're halfway through this hour. But I hope I can be of value to your audience. So to anybody who's like, because I'm absolutely, ideologically and practically, and in every way possible, a fan and an advocate of gold, silver, Bitcoin, of conscientious money. And I have mixed feelings about all three of those, gold, silver, Bitcoin. But compared to fiat, yes, it's go get that way. Get out of fiat, get into real money for ethical, financial, practical, everything reasons. I'm 100% there. I'm an advocate. But I must profess, Justin, I have no relevant expertise. Although I did run for president with John McAfee once.
Yeah, so plenty to get into today, that's for sure. Let's try to tackle this one by one. So you're mentioning sort of the founding of the country, which is something I'm quite interested in. One of my favorite books is Bernard Bailyn's The Ideological Origins of the American Revolution. And there's a note in that book, which is like 300 pages, and it's just a sort of a subtext. And it's called A Note on Conspiracy. And it outlines how the radical Republicans of the time were pushing essentially notions that the king was conspiring against them to enslave the colonies. And whilst not everybody at the time who was pro-independence subscribed to those views, according to like Bernard's read of it, there was this radical Republican sect that held these views that the king was conspiring against them to enslave them. So you mentioned the constitutional fetishism, and whilst
Well,
it's
let me
what
let me let me let me let me point out one thing to that that's certainly of at least relevance to people who are financially attuned to the flows of larger economic currents here, is that while and I'm an optimist and I celebrate the positive significance of the American Revolution, of us saying fuck the king. We're not going to do this monarchy thing anymore. But every monarchy is really an oligopoly, right? There's a clan, there's a thing, there's an extended family, there are secret powers, there are people who control the money, there are the advisors, there's the lords, and blah 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 blah. There's a power structure, and the idea of a monarchy, of a singular titular head of government as the sole sovereign power, is kind of a myth anyway. They're a figurehead for a predator class in society that runs government, that often lasts longer. It has more continuity than any particular figurehead. And while we may have thrown off that figurehead, the evidence around us today of the concentration of financial power would certainly suggest, and everything that we've experienced in the last couple hundred years of American history, that while we threw off that symbol, we did nothing to throw off the major economic powers of Europe and those powerful families, the dynasties that have exploited the rest of us for their own benefit for generations, that we are throwing off now finally. But again, that would suggest all the more reason to want to get away from any kind of fiat currency or any kind of support for them.
Yeah, that's there's a lot to
All right,
I
the
wonder how.
long-winded interjection that I meant it to be.
No, so no, it's a lot of good points, especially at the end there. I think there's a lot of it's very muddled what was going on at the time of the founding of this country, and there's a lot of different views about it, especially um, well, for instance, you mentioned constitutional fetishism, and in the Fifth Amendment, there's the eminent domain clause, I believe, which says that the government can essentially take your property if it needs it. And then there's also the Constitutional Convention, in which the current Constitution came into being, and it was an amendment of what had previously been approved. Correct?
It was a pretty bald-faced coup, because prior to this Constitution, there were the Articles of Confederation, which was a confederation term, and terms of how we get along as sovereign states that can work together, or be a confederation that has trade agreements, that has security pacts when necessary, but that it really is based on the sovereignty of the member states and required unanimous consent to change or displace. When I say it was a coup, it was really a bald-faced coup when these guys came together with the Constitutional Convention, and they strong-armed a lot of states into sending representatives. And then they said in it, when I say bald-faced, it's like the Constitution itself said, 9 out of 13, fuck it. When we say we have 9 out of 13, we're going to just bully the other 4 into being a part of this. And that's what they did. It was absolutely not consensual.
So, what's the book idea you have that's burning in your mind?
Oh, no. It's the idea is this critical revision of the American historical narrative. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Sheldon Richman with his book, America's Counter-Revolution, and Jeffrey Tucker for all of his intellectual work for inspiring this project, Oath Breakers, which is kind of an obvious parody of Oath Keepers, but it's a way to take this idea and sort of give it teeth, and it's a Facebook shit stirring project for now, but it's like, oh, well, you hate the Oath Keepers? Well, here are the Oath Breakers. You're really, we're the opposite. And to say, not just as a matter of, principle, but actual practical allegiance to documents. And the manifesto that we wrote for this group, and it's just a Facebook page for now. And I don't know where if it's going to have legs, if anybody cares. If anybody wants to sponsor us doing anything more than, ranting on interviews and posting stupid memes about the Constitution, you can always, by the way, our logo is an eagle shitting on the Constitution. So it's very appropriate. But oathkeepers.club, if you go type in oathkeepers.club to any browser, it'll take you to our Facebook page. You can read the manifesto. And it basically says, no oath to the Constitution can be valid, because in order for an oath to be valid, it must be sworn of sober free will. Now, I was sober when I enlisted in the Marines, don't get me wrong, but there has to be also an element of informed consent. In order for an oath to be valid, it must not be under duress, whether that coercion is implied or open. And in a sense, we are all under implied or duress as Americans living under a coercive centralized state that limits our freedom by force. You don't believe me? Stop paying your taxes and see what happens. Now, I don't pay taxes, but that's because I've kind of rearranged my life so that my actual tax liability is, I pay sales tax when I can't avoid it, obviously, but that's what I've got myself down to. I don't hold U.S. dollars because I have a moral objection to paying the inflation tax. I don't think your audience needs that explained. But in terms of giving this idea teeth, like I really do want to confront the sanctity of the Constitution. And a lot of veterans, especially, and I was once a member of Oath Keepers, and I really was getting away from that a long time ago. But the constitutional fetishism prevents people from questioning authority to its core, questioning the actual application of ethics to the institutions of the world that we live in today. And it's, if you pull punches, you're going to lose the fucking fight. And when we endorse the premise of their idea of centralized, coercive, bullshit authority by fraud, we have given our it's like starting by letting the enemy into your fortress. Like that is our stronghold. That is our core principle upon which we stand, that no government without consent can be legitimate. It is not ethical. If you're going to have a government and it's going to be ethical, just like any other human relationships, it's got to be consensual. If it's coercive, if it's fraudulent, it's not fucking valid. It's bad. And denies human freedom and individuality. So I want the veterans community to get this. A big part of what I do here too with our nonprofit, Homefront Battle Buddies. We have 22 veterans committing suicide today, and I just want people to donate, to give me money so that I can say I've got a retreat here. And hey, every veteran in America, you need to know, no matter how shitty life gets, you can go get stoned in the woods with Adam Kokesh. Like, and if we could just get that out there, and mushrooms and ketamine and MDMA, we're all alternative therapies, every way in which the government has failed us as veterans, but specifically to address the issue of veteran suicide. Because, Justin, I know that what you do, and I know a lot of people in your audience, people who listen to the show, are warriors. Like, it is inherent to what it means to us to be people. And it is a very masculine thing that is very suppressed in society. And I'm not gender exclusive. I'm very open-minded and progressive. And I think warriorism is bigger than masculinity, but there's a certain instinct that a lot of us have as warriors to be willing to do things by principle, to put our lives on the line, to invest time and energy and effort and reputation and what and I know, like, you don't have to put on a uniform or go pull triggers, in this day and age to be a warrior. Obviously, it's very much an intellectual and spiritual and political war that we're talking about, uh, where the only time it really should ever get physical is when we are resisting in a Gandhian sense, and they are using force against us. As you know, I've done so many times. I think I speak, for those who don't know me in your audience, I speak with a lot of credibility on that issue. And I want, the world needs its warriors back. The warrior class of the world, especially in the United States, we can point to this, has been corrupted and turned into soldiers. They cut your balls off and shave your face and say, you're not going to be a warrior, you're going to be a soldier. You're not going to do the right thing. You're not going to put your life on the line to protect those who can't protect themselves. You're going to get paid money to kill for politicians or to be a part of the machine and help kill for politicians. You're going to be obedient. You're not going to be autonomous. You're not going to think for yourself. You're going to follow fucking orders. The world needs its warriors back. We've been turned into soldiers, and it's a fucking shame.
So, Adam, Afghanistan and the Afghanistan exit, and then now what we have going on in Ukraine is quite a 1-2 punch on, I think, on a longer term horizon. When you look at this, it'll be a significant period in the history of U.S. foreign policy post World War II. We exited Afghanistan. That in and of itself makes the history books. And now we are amassing troops in Ukraine. Reports of 100,000 Russian troops on the border of Ukraine and 3,000 U.S. troops in Ukraine. And I've even seen images now in the papers of our soldiers clad in white camos, right, for snow conditions. So, can you speak to that? What do you think's gone on in Afghanistan, and now that what's going on with Russia?
Well, obviously, I went from being a gung-ho Marine to being about as anti-militarism as you can get. But I want to, at risk of sounding pedantic and focusing on semantics here, because I know it's much deeper than that. You said "we" a lot in that question. Did you not?
I love
What
that.
you got a general in your pocket or something? What do you do? I think, yeah, you're smiling because you know what I'm going to say, right? You know what I'm getting at is that
Yes,
the
sir.
language you have been fooled into using is a false collectivism that is a kind of political Stockholm syndrome of loving and identifying with your captors or your abusers, and that you say "we," like, really, who the fuck is "we" here? No, stop identifying with criminals. Like, it is really important to separate who are the criminals in government from who are we, the people of the United States of America, because those are two very, very important and distinct groups of people and concept. And one of the ways that they have fooled us so deeply that makes all of that criminality possible is that we identify with it. And simply by using that language and psychologically identifying with those criminals, we empower them. And so I really do want to stop and make that point to someone like you who's open-minded about that and say, please consider the using accurate language out of a sense. I mean, to me, it's just out of a sense of intellectual integrity, that you're not "we." When you say "we," that is just not accurate language. Like, I mean, only in some weird twisted, oh well, they're over there and because we're their victims over here, and so we therefore are the same. No, fuck that. They are war criminals. You are not. Do not identify with them. I think that's very important for a lot of reasons, obviously. But as to what's happening now, I am concerned. I am watching it with concern, but I have yet to lose confidence in what I see as the general progress of humanity towards a voluntary society. And I don't know if I'll be able to bring it back to Ukraine or not. I don't really care. I'd rather make the bigger point here, but I always reference Professor Steven Pinker, Harvard professor, did a great TED talk called The Surprising Decline in Violence. And he has proven irrefutably academically that violence is on the decline over the course of human history. Follows kind of like a consistent, excuse me, almost like a decay curve, right? And to me, I disagree with him on some of his interpretations of the data, but I believe his data is extremely solid on that. And some of the interpretations that he has with the current institution of government obviously is what I disagree with, but I think even he would suggest that barring some cataclysmic event or some dramatic reversal of fundamental, I mean, to me, this is inherent to the progress of human or of intelligent life itself, really of life itself. That if you started on another planet somewhere else in the universe and you have the right combination of primordial goo to make proteins and single-celled organisms and multi-celled organisms that outcompete them, and then human societies that cooperate that outcompete human societies that are always engulfed in conflict, it is our natural progress as a species, as markets improve even, that cooperation and synergy by a matter of market competition simply, as well as reproductive and evolutionary competition, beats out conflict, right? Beats out lack of cooperation. And so I have, to me, that's a matter, it's almost like I really should write that down and call it like a law of science, of like it's like a theory of gravity, you know, like the theory of the nature of life progressing to harmony. You know, we are the gray goo that will engulf the universe and cause it to implode back in on itself eventually. Who knows? Yeah, you got to go somewhere with that. All right, enough. That's too big picture of a sidebar, right?
No, I don't think it is. Honestly, that's kind of like what I like to talk about here. Like I like try to like keep things nice and zoomed out. That's why I said at the start of this, we don't need to talk about these couple of topics that we're all being told to talk about 24/7. There's plenty of stuff to talk about out there that still, you know, leads us towards harmony.
Yeah. So, but to the progress, to bring it back to Ukraine, you know, I was in Fallujah in 2004, so I have this like sort of personal experience anchoring point that is the center of my understanding of modern American foreign policy and war. And I have seen, I have sought as an intellectual on my own since that experience to fit it into a context that makes sense as a coherent worldview. And I see, if you go back to, you know, World War I and then World War II and then Vietnam, there's the sort, and then the Gulf War and then the global war on terror. There's, as horrific as it is, there's a general de-escalation of the amount of viciousness that government can get away with. And I like to call wars, like in the age of the internet, those assholes who make war happen simply cannot get away with lying millions of gullible young men into putting on silly costumes and meeting in the middle of a field where none of them live and killing each other because they're wearing different colors. It's fucking incompatible with the internet. Like you cannot get away with that level of duplicitous, evil bullshit that has been necessary to make the wars of prior generations happen. Just not possible. And that's going to accelerate. We are at this point, you know, Steven Pinker shows the decline in violence. But what I more often look at and what makes me optimistic is that there's an incredible acceleration of the human experience that we're going through right now. You know, I'm going to brag for a second here because I just turned 40 2 days ago, like I said, so I got this pipe.
Happy birthday.
Here's to all the people who watch independent media and put their money where their eyes and their ears are. Well, like I'm 40 and I'm in the best looking shape of my life. I think when I was playing rugby or doing steroids in the Marine Corps, I might have been like actually in better practical shape. But I eat one vegan meal a day. I do lots of physical activity. I keep my body revved. I take a lot of vitamins and supplements. I'm super conscientious about my diet. And I feel like I'm that Rob Lowe character from Parks and Rec, who's like, well, doctors say the first man to live to be 150 has already been born. It's gonna be me. Yeah, like I feel at 40 like I'm not slowing down at all. And I feel good. And I of course, to people in your audience, I'm gonna pander. Now that y'all have had a piece of my mind pretty raw, I depend on people who are better at investing than me to fund my activism. But I just want to remind people that a part of the message that I bring that I hope was what I share, because I actually am in a position where, having been arrested as much as I have, having the FBI visit my property here as much as they have, I don't want to be financially wealthy. I do not want the liability of it. I want more money than I have, which is I have been I am but I'm an extremely wealthy man in terms of the things that you need to earn, right? A healthy body, a mind at peace, a house full of love. There's some famous quote, I forget who. Mike Adams shared that the other day. Those are things that you earn that money cannot buy. And I hope that my message and my service to humanity is helping people achieve those. So that's my pitch for fundraising. I think I do a lot of different things with my media production, with Homefront Battle Buddies, which is actually still a functioning, official, registered 501c3 nonprofit. If anybody wants, the tax deduction benefits from that. I definitely take crypto. I'm happy doing business and barter and under the table and off the record and everything like that. And I'm pretty open about my property here. Taking visitors if people want to come see what we're doing. I want to plug two things too for ways to connect with me. One is well, I guess a few things. I'll do this again at the end. But my personal email is adam@thefreedomline.com. If anybody wants to reach out to me to get involved in any of the projects that I've got going on here, there's a lot. Like I just beat mushroom charges. We're growing and giving away mushrooms here, and I want help to be able to do that. But I have figured out now completely how to safely say that publicly, openly, and manage that liability in a very reasonable way. So I want to share that with as many people as possible. The other thing I want to plug is Telegram. I'm a big fan of Telegram. Man, Justin, I can't. Your show's got to be some establishment bootlicking piece of shit if you're still allowed to broadcast on YouTube. Oh, did I say that? Is that going to get you banned? No, we didn't mention the virus which shall not be named, and we didn't talk about the evil one. Although you can talk about him as long as you say Trump is evil, and I believe that. Trump is. I know he's not evil. No human is evil. But on Telegram,
That's funny.
find
I
me.
wonder if I did like a super hardcore anti-Trump episode that really got into some of how his term ended, especially 2020. Just focus on 2020 and Trump from like a critique. If that would stay on YouTube, you could probably say everything that you need to say. But moving on, go ahead. Keep on Telegram.
No, yeah,
You love Telegram.
Find me on Telegram. I have a channel, Adam versus the Man. I have a channel for the homestead here, the Garden of Freedom. So if you're on Telegram, I highly recommend everybody get on Telegram. I don't know if you want to get into that, but conscientious app use, messaging. There's a lot of reasons to use Telegram. And I joke about YouTube because I'm banned on YouTube. I've given up on YouTube for myself because I do want to talk about the virus which shall not be named. So there, I'm gonna use your YouTube compromise against you here. You want to hear my perspective on COVID? Come and listen to Adam versus the Man every Wednesday night at 5 p.m. Pacific. And I'm a big for a video platform. I'm a big fan of Odyssey, ODYSEE, which runs on the Library blockchain. And you can find me there, just Adam Kokesh, at Adam Kokesh, Kokesh. That's how you spell my last name. So, all right. Now I'm stoned and drunk.
Kokesh shrooms. You can call your mushrooms Kokesh shrooms.
Yeah, right. No, no. See, you know what the crazy. Okay, so quick sidebar on that because I'm a big fan. Well, I'm gonna sidebar back like 3 levels of inception, and then come back to that if I can remember it all. No, a big part of what I think is essential to this phase of human progress is reframing how we talk and think about mental health. In my own experience with PTSD and working with veterans and suicide and addiction issues, et cetera, has led me to this model. I don't think I've ever heard anyone else articulate it this way, but I'm certainly not the first. I'm just doing my part to pull for this because I see it's very important. If someone came to me and said, "Hey, Adam, I can bench 225. I want to bench 315. Can you show me how?" I wouldn't say, "Oh, well, let's deal with your weakness problem. Let's deal with the fact that you're a pussy. Let's heal how your strength is broken." No, you go, "All right, that's fucking awesome. Let's build it up," you know? And having that attitude towards mental health. And this comes from my historical perspective. You go back up that curve in time when humanity was really fucking violent. I mean, anybody who's got a sense of the texture of life, even just in recorded history in medieval times, should know that we are really living in the most peaceful times. And just a few generations back, everybody was fucking traumatized. Everybody was brutalized. It like I mean the handful of the human experience humans on Earth who experienced a loving 2-parent household where all of their needs were met and they had regular access to food and medicine and were protected from abuse and exploitation and violence. It was a very, very small part of the human population, whereas now it's more or less everybody. I don't want to discount the people that don't have exactly what I just described, but relatively speaking, everybody gets like that's the expectation, right? And I know that sounds privileged. I'm not trying to discount again how many people on Earth don't get that today, but obviously that is a major mark of human progress that we kind of take for granted. And a lot of people look at how many Americans are on psychotropic pharmaceutical medications, uh, people who diagnosed DSM, whatever the fuck they're on now, the Diagnostic and Statistics Manual of the American Psychiatric Association. I have an undergraduate degree in psychology. And I mean, I hate the institutionalization of it. I hate how it's been corrupted by big pharma, obviously. But overall, the fact that we have the leisure time and the ability to look at our mental health, even the way that we do, is actually just becoming much more conscientious and mentally healthy and emotionally mature and evolving out of generations and generations and generations of ingrained trauma. And humanity is and it's part of this great curve. And a lot of it just comes with material wealth post-industrialization, and that the superfluity of the superfluousness of material wealth that's available, are a bit like, and it's um it's funny how we fail to really provide for every human on Earth. And I say we, the human family. I'm not collectivizing or creating any kind of obligation. And it's really the criminality of governments that stand in the way of us being able to provide an abundance of energy, food, water, clothing, shelter, entertainment, etc., like basic human need, medical care, uh, access to the internet, information, the basic technology interfaces, smartphones, laptops, whatever it is. Um, we're there. Like, congratulations, humanity. And longevity escape velocity, a concept I get from Dr. Aubrey de Grey, one of the great life extension experts, says that there's this concept, longevity escape velocity, once human life expectancy is going up by more than 1 year per year, guess what? Nobody dies of old age unless they choose to. Like, I've stopped riding motorcycles and start taking care of yourself. Like, that was what I got from that, and I really believe that humanity is on the verge of something else. So what was the question I was supposed to bring all that back to? I think I got 2 more sidebars to go to bring it back.
So I think all I said was Kokesh shrooms.
Yeah, so mushrooms and better drugs instead of the criminal drugs, natural drugs, non-patentable drugs. With Homefront Battle Buddies for veterans, I'm particularly excited about cannabis, psilocybin, MDMA, and ketamine. Those are two of those are not natural. MDMA and ketamine are synthetic, but the thing is they're not patentable. So whatever legitimate application they have, they're going to be pushed out of the market by the criminalization through the drug war in order for big pharma to be able to put, push other drugs that have worse outcomes. And I won't say anything. I won't take this opportunity to say anything about COVID, even though I really, 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 really want to. But tune into Adam versus the Man Wednesdays at 5, and we can get into it. We'll leave it at that, because this is why I got banned from YouTube, is connecting it to that and that where we're at right now. So we could go confrontational on a lot of the activism I've done in the past. A lot of activism of a political nature is inherently confrontational, but we have kind of hit a limit as libertarians, as voluntaries, as people who want to move humanity forward with love and reason. When you are arguing with people who have an emotional connection to their political positions, you will never change their minds with reason and evidence. You will need to empower them to be more emotionally mature. You will need to encourage them and create the space for that. You will need, and I think people are getting this anyway. I'm not advocating anything that's like, and then the human dynamics are gonna, no. Everything I'm talking about is just the continuation of humanity's positive dance forward. But where we're kind of at a limit politically right now is because we are at a limit with the practical level of mental health. And a lot of that, and again, I'm going to say something about COVID as a phenomena that is non-controversial, that there's a lot of fear. There's been a lot of fear involved. Whether you can be afraid of all different sides of it, right? I should say people are afraid of all different sides of the COVID phenomenon, right? Fair to say. And just that fear. I mean, I could talk about the effects of lockdowns and different medical issues, and I'll stay away from that stuff. But I don't think anybody can deny that the strain of the COVID phenomena, one way or another, again, whatever your opinion of it, has had a serious negative effect on Americans' mental health and really humanity. It's been a step backwards. It's been a strain. And I am ever optimistic. I think we are coming out of this with positive momentum and awareness. And I would say that it's on all of us who can see this, who have the emotional maturity and the perspective to hold the hands of those who don't. And I think that I want to help hold people, give them mushrooms to bring it back. But yeah, to put it in the most positive and important context, there are so many mental health benefits of ending the rest of the drug war and making these, alternative therapies commonly and safely and widely available for human progress right now, and evolving past the authoritarian paradigm that we find ourselves in. So yeah, mushrooms. Let's do mushrooms.
Yes, that's so mushrooms. Talk more about mushrooms. Like, for one thing, you've brought up a couple of times that you beat mushrooms charges.
Well, yeah, I'll tell that story as quickly as I can, but the point of it is basically that anytime the government comes at you with a criminal complaint, they are saying that whatever threat they are leveling against you, they are backing up, because it's a threat. It's you broke our rules. We're going to make you do time. We're going to punish you. It's not justice. It's a legal system, not a justice system. It's about controlling your behavior by making you suffer. Justice is about making victims whole and protecting people. That's not what our government does. Sometimes, I'll give them credit sometimes. By and large, they screw things up. They make justice services, reconciliation services, restitution and dispute resolution services unavailable to the poorest of society, and therefore make crime at a petty level much more rampant, because what we should have for recourse and restorative justice is kept from us by the American legal system. That sidebar aside, when they come at you with a threat, it's, if you don't take our plea offer, because there will always be an offer, you can plead guilty, or you can bargain that away, whatever. Uh, if you do not take our deal, we will assemble a jury of your peers, and we will get their permission to fuck you even harder. And here's the thing. When it comes to mushrooms charges, they can't do that anymore. The mushrooms themselves have reached at least 1 in 12 Americans. And so when I found myself in Saguache County and I got pulled over for not having plates on my truck, because my truck is the Black Pearl, the nigh uncatchable F-150, and it got this nickname in this story because it was towed and impounded, even though I had my 2 dogs, Thelma and Louise, with me. But at the end of it, and they let me out, they gave me a ride back to my truck and practically apologized and paid for the towing and impound fees. You know that doesn't happen, right? Normally they fuck you on that, and you got to pay. Like, so I was in jail for 12 days. I got taken in. They used some warrants on my record that were actually not active as the excuse to take me in. They brought a dog, sniffed my car, took my dog out, and found, as I've said and was open about from the beginning, an envelope full of capsules of psilocybin mushrooms ground up. And they tried to get me on a felony too for distribution. And I didn't even know this until I got out. That was 8 to 24 years. And given that I'm a convicted felon for my firearms civil disobedience in DC, I would be closer to the 24 years range in the sentencing guidelines. But to me, it was like walking, around the edge of a cliff. You don't look down, you're not going to fall. So I didn't fucking look down. I went to jail and I was non-cooperative the whole time. They did not recognize their authority. I made them pick me up and carry me from the car to the processing room. I refused to, I don't want to say refused, I declined, but I said physically, I will not cooperate because what you are doing is criminal. I am innocent. I have no victims. I am a member of the Oklahoma Native American Church. I'm a veteran taking anti-suicide medication to other veterans. Yes, you want to get me for distribution? Fuck you. I am distributing this. But you know what? You won't, and that won't hold up in juries with a jury anyway, because it was a singular, it was such a small quantity. There's no fucking way. And it was in a single seal pouch. And I told that to the sheriff himself when he came and met with me in jail. And when they came and they offered me bond, I said, fuck you. I'm not going to sign shit. You're going to let me out of here with no charges, or I'm not getting out of here at all. And it took him 12 days. And I was complete non-cooperative the whole time. I made him, I'm vegan. I made him feed me vegan food. I stayed in solitary, so I got to work out naked. I came up with a new yoga pose. It only works if you're naked and being watched on camera. But you take plow. It's called 2 birds on a flower. You take plow, which is like your legs behind you and your butt up in the air, and you make 2 birds and you pull your butt cheeks apart towards the camera. So, 2 birds on a flower. But no, I had fun. I did 12 days in solitary confinement. At the end of it, there's a lot more to it. And I got to give a shout out again to my girlfriend, GI Mary Jane, Joey Lee, who did an amazing job in jail support for me from the outside. And all of my fans and supporters who wrote emails and call bombed, call flooded. So we stay away from violent metaphors. Call flooded and email flooded the jail and the relevant government offices in Saguache County. And so in my case, fortunately, it only took them 12 days to back down. And now I get to sue them. So it's been fun. But now I'm comfortable saying on my own property, where I am sovereign here, I grow and for consumption on my property. I grow and I give away mushrooms to guests and veterans in particular. So yeah, we're there. Congratulations, America, humanity. As much as the effects of cannabis are just starting to be felt on a more widespread level. Psilocybin, and I don't know, maybe some other compound will prove to be more effective. But to me, there's a certain appeal, and right now of the organic nature of mushrooms. That we have evolved, humanity, our brains have evolved alongside mushrooms. That I think makes it an unavoidable, critical point in human progress that that we all get to know the mushrooms. We all get to know ourselves a little bit better.
I'm in North Idaho from California, and in California, you can get 1,000 milligram tincture THC solutions. However, in Washington State, the government, in an act of, in an effort to protect us, they might put it, decided to cap the tinctures at 100 milligrams. So I can only get 100 milligram THC tinctures in Washington State because it's capped at 10x less the potency of what's going on in California. So I need to take like 10 recommended dosages in one sitting in order to even feel the effects. And then two, actually what it does practically, Adam, just real quick, it pushes everyone towards like smoking and vaping. So they're getting the stuff elsewhere. So go ahead.
No, I mean, it's kind of like first world problems, but yeah, I'm grateful that so many.
But it's a medicine. So like, let's look at it. This is a medicine product. If there's any medicinal product in a dispensary right now, it's the tincture, and the government has basically made it useless.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want to say that. I appreciate your complaint. I don't mean to discount it at all, but I think you're of a better mind to be optimistic about this whole situation. And I just want to point out that while it's a legitimate complaint, it's kind of what that makes me think of is I'm glad that so many center leftist moderate types living in cities are butting their heads directly, possibly for the first time in their lives, with the idiocy of arbitrary government. Which brings me to, oh no, I'm not, the virus which shall not be named. I'll let you. I won't spoon feed your audience the punchlines. I think they can put that one together for themselves.
Where can they find your COVID views?
On our Odyssey channel. But like the virus itself, my views are evolving, mutating even.
The late John McAfee, you were his running mate for the Libertarian Party ticket. What do you have to say about his passing late last year?
He was murdered.
Go on.
He was absolutely murdered. No question.
Because he was a free spirit.
He had the whack tattoo. He loved being alive. He had his demons. He had his quirks. He even had his things that he was unstable about. But if you knew John McAfee at all, you would know that his commitment to living well by his own standards, his commitment to life, his desire to hold on and to live every moment and squeeze every bit of experience, good, bad, and indifferent, out of every moment of life, was never in doubt. And I don't believe for a second that his experience in a Spanish jail even beat that out of him to the point of suicide. No fucking way. No way.
You said that he was a free spirit. Tell us about John.
Well, when I was running for president the first time, well, the only time, I was watching him his first time, because he ran in 16 and 20. In 16, he ran kind of a conventional campaign for the Libertarian Party nomination. And in 2020, he was in and out of the party, and then in and out of the country in exile at different times. And then ended up as my running mate, proposing to the party that he'd be the VP nominee with me as the presidential nominee, and he would run in exile, and we'd have one cannon on the ground, and we'd have his online clout and name ID and everything else as a partnership. And when I watched him run in 2016, he told his story about smoking a joint, walking down the street and getting arrested, and then going right back and doing it again and getting arrested and going right back and doing it again. It was, it was a petty offense. It's not like you're doing time. You get cite and release kind of arrest. But there was something about John McAfee where, well, let me put it this way. I'm a sidebar. I'm gonna brag about myself in order to say how much cooler John McAfee is, because people look at me and my civil disobedience, and the shotgun incident and the Jefferson dance party, and even like recently with the mushrooms incident in Colorado, and they say you're brave, and I like to point out that I'm not. That what makes me different, what enables me to do what I do that people confuse as brave, is that I have confidence in my calculations of risk and in benefit and cost benefit analysis, right? A lot of people see I might get arrested, and I understand if your health is fragile, excuse me, if you have a family that really depends on you, like where if you disappeared, like they would die or be really fucked somehow, like I get it, it's a different thing. But for most people, like I might get arrested, is this just like incalculable, oh my God, I might die? And they don't bother to quantify that and bring that down, and can't see that in reality, for most things that are meaningful civil disobedience, even that I've done, I'm not looking at a lot of time. Like I've been arrested, I don't know, somewhere between 50 and 100 times, not counting traffic stops, like actual arrests, and most deliberate civil disobedience, some spontaneous, some staged. But I've done at least a dozen overnights. I've done a total of about 6 months of time in jail altogether in my life. 4 months in the biggest chunk, and then there's 12 days recently and 10 days, and there was a couple of weeks and then a few weekends, and it adds up to about 5 or 6 months, I think. 6 months. Oh yeah, no, it's yeah, closer to 6 months, but it's not important. um but it's rare that people do long time for a lot of the stuff that I consider just, living free, being a fucking pirate. And John McAfee, you know, makes me look like a wimp when I do that kind of shit, because every time I cross the line, I tiptoe up to it and then go, oh my God, I'm stepping over the line. You got the cameras out. You got the cameras out. You look, I stepped over the line. Oh, I'm back. Oh, I stepped over. And John McAfee just fucking lived life. Was like, oh, there was a line there. Fuck that, you know, and fuck your line, whatever, and I used to say, like, I want to be John McAfee when I grow up, minus the mystery. I want to be the straight man answer to John McAfee. John McAfee, like, and his book, the author, Mark Eglinton, the John McAfee tapes. I just started the audiobook. I'm listening to it. It's very fun. I highly recommend it. Um, I hope he'll do my biography someday. But John McAfee told a lot of tall tales and distorted the truth, and kind of once he stopped, once he sold his share in McAfee antivirus, he, became his pirate self. And he used a lot of deceit, and he had a strange relationship with reality himself. But he was a happy trickster. And so I kind of want to be the boring, direct, straight man version of that. You're not going to get any mystery or bullshit with me. But God bless John McAfee. He's the father figure we don't deserve, but we all get to enjoy by him and his story. And I had the distinct honor of being a small but significant part of it for him. So, John.
We only got a couple minutes left. So Adam, my last question is, are you off grid? And then maybe once you answer that, you can tell everyone where to find your work.
Yeah, we are off grid, and you know, one of the things that we've come to accept in our family recently is that the dystopia that we feared is kind of here. I'll leave it at that because I might connect it to the virus which shall not be named, and then things will get weird for you on YouTube. Um, Feel free to cut shit if you really have to. Just show me, yeah, whatever. If I think I crossed this line, I'm dancing around here. Uh, but it's we get to kind of take it for granted that we get to live a pretty happy, healthy, stress-free life because we don't live in Babylon. And right now, Babylon is crumbling. And I don't want to be sitting where a piece of it can land on my head. And I very much sympathize with a lot of people that shit's stressful right now. But I don't want to be an enabler and say it's going to be okay. You don't have to do anything. Fucking get the fuck out of Babylon. Like and I deliberately say Babylon to be metaphorical because it could include a lot of things. Don't work for evil. Don't have a job. Like, we have such a superfluous level of wealth. Nobody has to be hungry. Like, what's really important? Think about what's really valuable. What's really important? Do you have a fit, healthy body? Do you have a mind at peace? Do you have a home full of love? I would add to that a life of principle and purpose. Have you built that? Have you earned that for yourself? And our generation alive today has the luxury to pursue that like none that has come before us in every way that I described. And what was the fucking question again? Oh yeah, something about being off grid. Yeah, so part of it's a matter of principle, but it's also very practical. And I in the sense that I don't want, like, the average working American works for government half the year, right? And I say that and people go, what the fuck is he talking about? Okay, think about what's taken out of your paycheck. Then think about all the sales taxes you pay. Then think about every fee, fine, and other government cost and tax built into everything that you buy. And you go, oh shit, yeah, you're working for government half the fucking year. It is by consent. Fucking stop giving it to them. Like, if anything that I have said in the last hour has resonated with you at all, for God's sake, fucking please live. Have the courage to live by the principles behind what we're talking about. And for me, being off grid, being self-sufficient, and I'm not there yet. I don't pretend that, like, I feel like I'm kind of like duct taping holes in my escape pod as we're getting off the mothership, like coming out here building it as we're doing it. Excuse me, but yeah, we're working to, like, if we had to be food independent, if we had to collect rainwater, we could be out here. And we're independent for electricity with solar. We get water from a community well. I shop for food at a local farmer's market for 80% of my calories. And the thing that kills me is that I still have to pay a bill to T-Mobile every month. But that's my tether to Babylon, and I've accepted that for what it is until we get mesh nets. It's coming. Keep pushing on, like, and to people in your audience, I might say, hey, if you don't want to donate to me, if you don't want a piece of what I'm doing, think of entrepreneurship as activism. Think of where you put your money, where you allocate value, as kind of voting with your feet, voting with your wallet, with the value that you control. It's very important, and you can cast your vote for whatever you want. But I hope that you cast it in some way that is in line with your highest vision for yourself, your greatest connection to love. To me, that's God. I'm a pantheist. It's not that God is love, it's that love is God. that vibration through the universe that makes this all one, whatever that is. That's love. When I meditate, I tune into the love vibration. That's what speaks to me. So on that note, yeah, adam@thefreedomline.com if you want to email me videos, and my podcast at Adam Kokesh, ADAMKOKESH, on Odyssey and on Telegram. Please find my channels, Adam versus the Man. Find my channel, The Garden of Freedom, and my channel, Homefront Battle Buddies, and connect with me, or any one or all of the above. I'd be very grateful. I hope that you've enjoyed our time together and it's been worthwhile. And I hope that everybody who makes this show possible will continue to support Justin doing what he's doing for y'all. Cheers.
And somehow you're still on Twitter at Adam Kokesh. And I'll mention that because I know Bitcoin.
No, that's where I try to suck people out of the matrix.
So Bitcoiners are there in the matrix on Twitter. They can get sucked out of it at Twitter at Adam Kokesh. Thank you so much. We've had the honor and privilege of sitting down today with Adam Kokesh, Adam versus the Man, the Freedom Line. Thank you so much, Adam, for joining us today.
Thank you, Justin. It's been fun.
And thank you everyone
Peace
for
and love,
listening.
y'all.